Hey everybody, I'm Bob Baker with Jazz Guitar today, and we are here talking with Oz Noy about his newest project, Riverside, which is really cool. I listened to it. Well, I'm gonna let you talk about it a little bit. You got a kind of a new lineup, for you. Some neighbors, I understand.
Yeah.
You got kind of bored in COVID times and went down to the park. And so, they don't want to hear me talk about it. So why don't you tell us a little bit how this project got started?
Well, what happened is in 2020 when pandemics hit, in May, this lockdown was started to open up. So I just wanted to play out, and I live on the Upper West Side of New York. So there's two parks right by me, it's Riverside Park and Central Park. So I thought of just getting a battery amp and going into the park and playing because it started to get warm and stuff. So there's a really great bass player that lives by me, Yugano Okwego. He's really great. He played with Tom Harrell and a lot of people. He's excellent. So I called him. I was like, hey, you want to come to the park, play upright? And then there's a great drummer, Ray Marchita, that I know forever. And we all live, a couple of blocks from each other and really close to the park. So we started to go to Riverside Park. We found a little corner and we started to go there a couple of times a week from pretty much end of May till end of October when it got cold. And we played like 2 to 3 times a week. And you have to remember that was when everything was locked down. So that's, we just played. We're kind of like everybody was walking around looking at us like monkeys, like, oh, what is that? But we were playing, we played so many standards. I played so much jazz. I always played some, but I played more than I ever played in my life. So when we were done, when the winter came, Ray, the drummer, says like, hey, let's just go in the studio and record. So that's what we did. We tried to kind of capture the vibe that we had in the park because from playing all that much, a couple of times a week, we kind of got a little repertoire and we started to get a vibe,
Yeah.
So we just tried to do it in the studio. We got we kind of got it. We didn't get the vibe of the park exactly, but it still sounds good. That's always the case when you do records in studio. But anyhow, that's the story. So it's just a kind of a group effort. We just kind of became a little band from that situation.
So I'm used to hearing you, Stratocaster, overdrive, lots of pedals.
Yeah.
And doing the kind of, fusion thing, if you will, for lack of a better word, even though I know you got a background and, you've played all that, all the standards years ago. I think you had an L5 that you were playing on. So you got some of the tracks that you're doing all like standard, almost all standards, like Billy's Bounce, Anthropology. You're doing This Could Be the Start of Something Big. You're doing All the Things You Are. Have You Met Miss Jones?
Yeah.
All those. Oh, Donna Lee, man, wow, what a rendition of Donna Lee you put together. So like this is like a clinic for guys that want to really check out what's going on with how to play over the standards and everything like that, man. Awesome what you did with it.
Thank you.
These tunes, I mean, were these the tunes you were playing in the park?
Yes, but I gotta give some background to this and clear some misconceptions. First of all, I always played jazz and played standards, always. Mm-hmm. The only reason why people don't know it much about it is because I never done jazz albums before. I kind of got a little scared of it and I never really kind of figured out my way exactly. And then this whole electric thing started and I kind of went for that ride. But I always played jazz. And, if I used to play every Monday at the Bitter End in New York doing my electric thing. I still play once or sometimes a couple of times a month at a 55 bar. When I play the 55 bar, I always play straight ahead. I play standards, So I've done this for years. I just never recorded it. There was a period a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, 7 years ago, that I've done some gigs with Patitucci and Tane Watts. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to record it. I was just that close to doing that, and then I chickened out. So after that, this kind of trio started to I couldn't get it back together. So after that, I just pretty much put it on the back burner. I always wanted to do an album, and this album wasn't the one that I was planning to do. It just kind of happened, And I thought, it's kind of cool the reason we play those tunes is because that's the repertoire that I like to play, and those are the tunes that we played in the park.
Yeah.
And the reason I wasn't using overdrive or effects or any of that stuff, or we was just cleaning to the amp, is because that's what we played in the park. I just brought a guitar. I brought that little exotic pedal, this AC booster, just because, you know, RC booster, just because
it's pretty, it's pretty clean.
Yeah, exactly. But so I just wanted to just really capture that vibe in the park. That's why we did it. You know, I could have brought a delay pedal and override pedal. I just wanted to be exactly what it was because it had a charm, you know.
Well, I think it's great. Now, did you play the Duo Jet the whole time, the Gretsch Duo Jet?
I wish I did, because it sounds the best.
It sounds amazing. It sounds great.
The tracks on the album that sound the best are the tracks with the Gretsch.
Oh,
I played half of the album on the Gretsch and the other half on my Strat. I don't know. You know, there's something, I feel so much more comfortable playing a Strat that it's just like, you know, but the Gretsch was, I should have done the whole thing on the Gretsch, you know.
The way that you're handling that Duo Jet, man, it's got a vibe, man.
It's got a real really vibe.
And I love your Bixby work, man. And you got to move your arm with those things, man. That thing's got a lot of.
You know, I had this guitar forever. I actually used it on one of my albums. I used it on 2 songs, I think. You know, so it's not that I didn't record with it, but this was kind of the perfect guitar for the occasion, you know.
Oh man, it sounds great. Let me ask you, is that an original one? Is that a 57?
No, but it's a Steven Stern master build.
Okay.
So it's extraordinary. It's kind of like an old one. It's as good as an old one, really.
Man, well, first of all, it looks great. It's killer looking.
Yeah.
It's a green 57 Duo Jet. I think the actual model number of that thing, for people that are interested, it's a 6128T for those people that, you know, are following along at home. So, but it's really cool. And there's a YouTube video. Last week we did the Jazz Guitar
Billy's
Day.
Bounds.
We did the Billy's Bounce. We posted the video on the magazine, so jazzguitartoday.com, and I've watched it a couple of times, and you know, I love it. I mean, the guitar sounds great. And is that a Princeton you're going into? Is that
So the way I recorded the record is, when I went to play in the park, I played with this Roland Cube stage amp. Right. It's got batteries. Yeah. It actually, surprisingly, it's got volume. It doesn't have a real good tone. It almost sounds like a guitar played direct. But for jazz, there's something about it that it's very soothing, you know. So I kind of accepted that. And then when I went to the studio, I brought that amp. But then I was like, well, I got to get something real too. So I brought my Princeton, and then it's the record, I mixed them together.
Well, a little secret, you know, that I think more people ought to get hip to. If the solid state thing's a little bit too clean, you just bring an RC booster like what you brought.
Exactly, that's what I did.
And you put it on very, very low drive, you know, so there's not much distortion, and it starts adding all those harmonics. So it gives you that kind of faux tube amp thing. And one of these days I'm going to do an article on that. But but it's whatever you did, it's the studio recording. I mean, it sounds great, man. It really sounds great.
You know, I have a funny story about the Gretsch. The way I got this Gretsch was, a student of mine came to my house years ago with that guitar, and I played on it. And I was like, wow, that's the best guitar I've ever played. And he says like, oh, it's not mine, it's this friend of mine. So I told him, if he ever wants to sell it, I'll buy it. And about 3 years later, I was playing the 55 bar, and that student of mine came to the gig, and he goes, I remember that Gretsch, the guy selling it. And I was like, I'm buying it, and I bought it.
Well, it's awesome. It looks great. It's got kind of an old modeled finish on it. You know, it looks freaking awesome. It sounds great. You know, when things get better, you're gonna take this thing on the road at all, or is this just a
I don't know if I can take it on the road, because I have other projects that might need to go on the road. But we're planning to do some gigs, at least locally, and you know, everything's possible if somebody invites us to play, of course. But it's so jazz, you know, it's so straight ahead that it's almost like I have to start a whole new career to start, image to kind of go and get this thing booked. So I'm not against it. I would like to do it, but it might take a little time, you know.
Well, you know, I mean, for people that are seeing this, you know, seeing this interview for the first time, the recording, obviously, as we've already talked about, it's standards, if you will. You know, it's all and Oz just kills it. I mean, you just freaking kill it with and the tone that you're using with the Gretsch isn't, you know, it's not fusion tone, but it's not an L5 either, you know.
No.
And so it's got a really cool vibe, and it's, you know, your playing is like it's modern playing on those tunes, but you're playing those tunes.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, you're doing a thing, man. You're moving that thing. You're moving the needle on that thing, if you know what I'm saying. You know, you're doing something new. I think it's great, man. I loved it. I went, holy shit, excuse my expression, but holy shit. And the band, the guys in the band are fantastic, you know. They're right there with you. So I want to shout out to those guys. So it's Ugonna Okegwo.
Yeah.
Is playing the bass.
Yes.
He's a German Nigerian, I believe, is what I saw. Man, he's playing upright. Just you know, for people who haven't seen the record, he's playing upright on this thing, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And then Ray Marchica is playing drums, and you know, Ray, among other things, you know, plays in the Pit and on Broadway quite a bit.
Yeah, he's like the super. He used to be the superstar drummer for Broadway stuff. He's done a bunch of other stuff too, but.
Well, his sensitivity, man. I mean, he is so light with those brushes, man. The dynamics that you guys got on that recording are just fantastic.
Thank you.
I was really impressed when I heard it, you know, because I went, whoa, what is this? You know, because I'm not used to you doing that. And like you said, because I haven't heard the recordings of it.
Yeah.
But I will say that you do have a reputation for being a hell of a West guy. Apparently, at some point in your life, you did a lot of West material.
Yeah.
You know, L5 with the thumb and the whole 9 yards. So I knew that about you, but I hadn't heard it. So we try to make these things kind of short and quick and just give people a thing that's going on. The album is Riverside. It's with Ray Marchica on drums, Ugonna Okegwo on bass, obviously Maestro Oz Noy here on the guitar. It's a minimalist thing, but man, it's stretching in a cool way. Wait do you guys hear Donna Lee? You know, don't cut your fingers off, but wait do you hear Donna Lee, man? It is smoking. You know, I really like all the things you are. I mean, there's not a more standard than that, but you made it fresh. You know, it's really cool.
Thank you.
No, I loved it, man. I think it's great. So is there anything you want to talk about at all before we say goodbye? We're trying to make this short and sweet and, you know, just promote that record because it deserves it, man. It really deserves it.
Thank you. Well, I'm really pleasantly surprised that so many people are excited about it, because when we went to record this, I didn't think of anything. I was just, let's just go and play those stanzas and record them. I didn't, you know, because usually my other records are a lot more artistic. I write the music, I come with concept. This was just old school, but it seems like it's touching people in a way where I wasn't expected. So, well, thank you.
It's great talking to you. It's great seeing you. I think this is the third time we've had you on our, you know, on our camera. We've had you on our cover before. We're gonna, and man, it's just great. So all the luck with this in the whole wide world. Riverside, you know, check it out. It's on all the things. It's on Spotify, and you know, it's on, you know, every music thing, and you'll find it. Be easy to find. So Oz, for Bob Baker, for Jazz Guitar Today. Oz, thank you very much, man.
Thank you.
Best of luck with all of this, okay?
Thank you.
Bye-bye.